Chris, thanks indeed for coming in. Did this come to a shock to you or not?
I think it is a surprise and a shock to South Africa because we were looking for and hoping for and needing stability in the leadership of Eskom. And this really does unsettle things. He has given reasons of health, and that is a fact.
Yep.
There are issues around health, I think primarily due to stress. But I think we have to look to the deeper reasons as to the cause of the stress and his resignation.
Let's talk about that, because what the press release says is that, and it quotes him saying that there were unimaginable demands on him. What do you think that was?
No question about it, there were. I think the biggest issues in my analysis are, in fact, his people skills. I don't think he ever won the confidence of his managers, of his executives, and indeed also Labour. You may remember it started off last year in the Labour negotiations with this 0% increase that he talked about, and that immediately put him in conflict and with Labour. And in fact the whole of Eskom staff, and I think he was perceived as being a numbers person, an accountant,
Yep,
rather than a leader that needed vision. And I think this extended from Labour through to the staff and management, and I don't think he ever won their confidence as a leader.
Is that it? I mean, here you have a man who takes over shortly after Cyril Ramaphosa took the leadership helm in 2017. He did make significant headway in at least stabilizing some financial controls. You still had power cuts under him, but Chris, I mean, here's a man that was given the poison chalice, wasn't he?
Absolutely, and the financial pressures on Eskom are absolutely enormous at this time. The Eskom financials for the year ending 31st of March 2019 are going before the board on Tuesday. That's next week. This coming Tuesday, in fact. So, and it's expected that the loss for the financial year will be in excess of 20 billion rands. Yes, he came in, but he hasn't stabilized the organization financially. In fact, it's going to face its worst financial crisis, its worst financial results, and indeed a liquidity crisis, huge debt problems going forward, and this is a massive burden on any person.
And that debt, what is it, sitting at 440 billion rand now? Just moments ago, a few months ago, we were talking about 420, 419.
Yes, I hear 450 at the moment.
I mean, a new CEO replacing him, I mean, is that really even a part of the solution to this enormous, gigantic problem that the power utility has?
Well, you know, in addition to all these problems, financial, are the whole question of the restructuring of Eskom.
Yeah.
And there are, I think, some great uncertainties about the roles and responsibilities going forward. So, for example, the position of COO, Chief Operating Officer, was created by the board. At the time, it was said that this was to relieve Mr. Hadebe, to focus on to relieve him of operational issues, to focus on strategic issues, new business model, restructuring of Eskom to become a utility of the future.
Yeah.
And now you remember the Minister of Finance announced a Chief Restructuring Officer.
I was going to get to
and really that may have put him in a position, what is my role? If there's going to be a Chief Restructuring Officer, whereas his position as CEO had been freed up for him to do these tasks, I think there may have been some uncertainty about roles and responsibilities. But actually, primarily behind this, I think are issues of the confidence of his people in him as a leader. I think those were the primary issues for his departure.
Chris, just finally, I mean, where does that put the perception of this huge power utility in the minds of ratings agencies, investors, who, like you said, when you open up your remarks, we're actually looking for stability in the biggest crisis that this economy has seen, and many people have said that, in terms of our liabilities. What do you think investors are doing looking at this at the moment?
In the immediate short term, we're talking about the end of June, Eskom has to bring out publicly its financials.
Yep.
And this is going to require its auditors to sign off with an audit opinion that this is a going concern. The reality is it's not a going concern as it stands at the moment. It's going to need major equity injection or bailout by the shareholder. The 23 billion rand a year has already shown to be inadequate because it had to bring forward this 23 billion rand when the China Development Bank loan did not come through. And there's talk that this whole 69 billion over 3 years, 23 billion rand a year, is going to have to be front-end loaded. And even that is not going to be enough, and is going to require additional bailout by government in the form of restructuring Eskom's debt, perhaps taking over some of its debt. And there's been talk, as you probably read, about green finance coming in at lower than market rates in order to restructure Eskom's debt, but with a proviso that Eskom should decarbonize faster. That really means, in practical terms, decommissioning its coal-fired power stations faster than previously intended. So green finance coming to the table, but demanding a decarbonization, a faster decarbonization. These are all things, and I believe there's going to be a need for a combination of all of these mechanisms: increased debt, restructuring of debt, green finance, as well as equity injection, because the hole in Eskom's finances is massive.
Chris, thanks very much indeed for those insights. That was Chris Yelland, Energy Sector Analyst there.